So this is the meeting to talk about utilities and infrastructure and transportation. We are recording this and videoing it over there. So if you're in witness protection, you probably set this into the data. Basically just want to make sure it's unless we have some technological issue and it doesn't record properly. That's happening that it's available for anybody here, right? First, I want to start off by thanking the church for letting us use this space. They are not for or against the project. They just wanted to make this available. I forgot to say that last night. Probably should have. So anyway, we appreciate it. The format of this meeting is pretty freeform. How many people were here last night? Very good, good much. So if you weren't here last night, catch you up real quick. There is no plan. We may have, but we haven't put pen to paper yet. So we will in a minute make the first marks on the map. Start coming up with a plan. There were lots of people last night who were certain that I was making that up, but you'll see, and you'll hear them. They'll be making noise right there during one paper. It's a different approach to development than typical. At these meetings, we try to focus on specifically topics that are stated. We heard a lot of topics last night. So today, I just want to continue on with the discussion, talk about concerns, talk about some specific drainage issues that about in the area. We've been learning about things and looking into things we talked about last night in the discussion, able to for widening Arno that the county and the city's transportation plan. So we've been trying to learn more about that. So today, when you ask questions, we may say we don't know yet. They don't feel like we're unprepared. It's just part of our process. Because if we knew everything, we couldn't come here and say, "Oh, we want to do a great play," or we come up with something. Maybe we start off by doing introductions. We'll go around and just say, this is probably so city and county folks is where the so I'm Brian Wright. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Design Collaborative. Live in Franklin. And meeting the team architects and planners and engineers, helping facilitate the discussion with all of you and figuring out what y'all's hopes, dreams, fears, and concerns are.
Greg Cooper, character development, along with Brian here, and we are and we're leading the development team. So I'm here to make sure that this development makes sense for the public and the ownership group. And so I'm here to try and punch the numbers and assess the feasibility from the development.
Brad Sladen with Reagan Smith Associates. I'll play a civil engineer. So hopefully have some conversation today, kind of understanding, look forward to hearing topo, great drainage concerns, things like that. The utilities, we can talk through some of that kind of stuff today. I'll get dangers on the transportation side of that. So I'll kind of hopefully play on that kind of side of the story.
Mark Peterson. I live at 4015 Arno Road with my wife. We're first driveway after you pass Cedar Mountain Farms entrance. So we're obviously very interested in what's going in across the street. Sure. And what will happen with Arno Road.
Bob Case, I live next to 4019 Arno. Well, not concerned, just curious. I have a well that was Cedar Mont property, and so I'm concerned if this is going to do to my water supply. There is a hole right here that feeds that. That goes away. This talks about this will be my house. So
We're on a skip. You guys doing that?
I'm Rob Saber.
We're going to come back to you. Okay, great.
Yeah. Calvin Metler, 4021 Arno. Concerned about Arno with speed limit and just what the future holds. I've been a part of many of these meetings in my past life. The bill of goods being sold now versus in the end is always very, very interesting. So I'm hoping this is going to be actually different. I hope it is actually collaborative with what you guys call the stakeholders. Just think it's easier to work with us. And any concerns, then have us fight you every step of the way. And with your homeowners that are hated by people. So, and I use that word very deliberately. I hope it's a new chapter in the Constitution.
Christopher going 4027 Arnold Road on the fifth driveway from Cedarmont entrance and kind of right next door.
You already have them in order.
Yeah, sure. And I'm concerned about the road. I'm concerned about growth. I've lived here for since '80s. And, never would have guessed that this would cross from my driveway. I've had dogs killed. Couldn't send my children out to get the mail. Can't hardly get out of my driveway right now. Especially at certain times. So very concerned about traffic. And crime. I mean, a lot of times when there's building, businesses and stuff like that, especially if they butt into your front yard. Same old thing, growth.
Just interested as far as the utilities, definitely the speed limit. If you round the corner, you'll see that, Rob's created these very cool stickers for our mailboxes for how many times they get hit. So, oh, totally.
Five times this year. Wow.
Yeah. And
This year.
so, if you, Murfreesboro, 2 lanes each direction, 4 lane total, 45. Our little two road, 50, and they take that stuff at 70. Yeah, it's, so, but utilities also, if the idea is, what is the plan for that section, but then how does that, impact ours? Are we gonna need to, bring our utilities underground engineering?
Awesome.
Steve says, they've been on 4373 Arno Road for the last 2 years. A lot of time built a house next to my own house.
You're from California, aren't you?
I'm from Winchester, Tennessee. So,
I can tell that.
but, I teach high school history over in Russia. We haven't started, so I'm off. But, our classes don't start till 8:30 in the morning, but I have to leave my house before 7 in order to leave the traffic that backs up. So, like it's still early.
I'm Melanie Trapner, and I was here last night. I guess biggest concern right now is preserving Arno. I understand we have no choice, something's happening here, but if they can be in and out of 96, that's ideal. Because as she said, Arno, what people forget is, and I have is, you have 15-year-olds that are learning to drive going down Arno Road, and probably many a mailbox, because there is no shoulder, there is no race. Like, you go off that line, there's nothing there. And so it is not a road for new drivers, but they do have to learn to drive that road, unfortunately, and you have a major way going down into the school. So we can just keep traffic, extra traffic off of Arno is ideal. And honestly, the trees and the canopies and everything protected homeowners that are already here and keep our people stable.
Rick Maharis, live in, Albany Point. Here at 97, my wife was alive, she used to say, it's not free, like, don't worry, the city's coming to us. Okay? It looks like it's right on our heels right now. My big issue is, getting out of our subdivision. I had a doctor appointment the other day, 20 minutes to get out of the traffic going both ways to the Blade Road, 50 miles an hour, people don't stop. Get anybody bottled up from 96 down, you just can't get out. If you're looking at high density homes, quarter acre lots, whatever, 4,000 square foot lot. This is Arno Village. I would probably make this something, you're probably gonna put exit in going out on the Arno Road right across from Grace Point. Okay, or
It'd be a logical spot where they're doing.
I'm gonna say that's where you're probably gonna.
No, I don't think
I don't
that's what
think
he's
it's a
saying.
logical spot. I
Oh.
think that's probably the more likely spot. I said that you can probably put an exit on the arm. You got 600-700 homes, which is, 1,400 cars. That's gonna put you another, I mean, and then you wanna get a 4-lane road going into the city, and they can't do it right now because people have septic tanks at the front. And we gotta address those issues first, so by the time they put sewers in, then you're talking about sewers, so you're talking a big infrastructure issue, guys, with that many people coming into the particular area, right? My other concern is, there's gonna make a modification to the intersection, but the intersection add an extra lane there, that's not really gonna help. You got commercial development on the corner. I guarantee you that if you're coming from Murfreesboro on 96 and you're gonna go down Arno Road, you put a commercial building there somewhere, you're gonna have a hell of a time getting in and out of that, in an accident city. As soon as an accident happens, that's gonna bottle everything up. The other fear they have is that it's nothing you can do, the county's got a long-term plan, like a 4-lane road. There's an accident like there was on 840 not long ago, Arno Road is like a freeway. Okay? And I mean, at 50 miles an hour, you got, schools and everybody else, and this. And I'm concerned about the infrastructure, utilities, the underground, hopefully, okay? Not above ground, I'm concerned about the water. And you put 700, 800 homes in here, where you can get treated, because you're gonna put sewers in here, you can't put it septic. So where are we gonna get the treatment facility? You already got issues on the west side of the city with, wastewater treatment. Who's gonna pay for it? The taxpayers are gonna pay for it. So it's heartening to see, when I moved here, I wanted to see some rural property, and now all of a sudden to get this developed. I thought we keep some of it, but I understand progress, but I think we got a lot of opportunity.
My name is Susan Carr. I also live in Albany Point, about halfway back in development, and previous speakers have pretty much covered what my concerns are. Number one being the traffic on Arno. That is basically a farm road now. I don't know how it's gonna be widened. I don't know how that's gonna help anything. It's difficult at certain times, certain days, getting out on Arno. And then once you get to 96, you may face the same thing. It was said many times last night, the issues with trying to access 65. And I think most of the people getting out on 96 are headed in the morning, or getting out on 96 are headed toward the interstate. Drainage also. I can see which properties are going to be included in the new design that face onto Arno, and one of them is directly, as Rick said, directly across from Albany Drive, which comes into our development. It is like a swimming pool when it rains over there, that one spot, and I'm sure that's why whoever owned it sold it to you. But if you put traffic out on Arno Road, more traffic, how many houses you're putting in, it doesn't sound like you're leaning towards the 1 acre lot. My suspicion is that it's gonna be many more than that. You can't dump that onto Arno Road with the hope that the city at some point is gonna widen it successfully. And that people that live on this side, on the south side, are gonna be able to get out of their main entrances. Our development goes down as it goes towards the middle of the development. So what's gonna happen with the drainage in this? What's gonna happen with all of these houses? Is that gonna affect water pressure in our area? And I guess for the technical, I won't say the other thing because it doesn't have any to do with what we're talking about. That's my piece.
You'll say that someone,
I have it written down. I can hand it to you.
no stone left unturned, please, so.
Yeah, my name's Clyde Graw. I live on 4240 Warren Road. And I've only been here 6 years. Came from LA, for the grandkids, it's a lot of people too. But secondly, I came for the country atmosphere, and I know, driving around LA, I was a traffic engineer, actually, yeah, in LA for, about 24 years, and most of that was in transportation planning, development review, specifically this, and actually half of that time I spent in a group was called neighborhood traffic management. I called it neighborhood anger management because the developer would build, a parcel, and then a lot of the residents that surrounding communities would threaten to sue, and then they would throw, hey, we'll give it $500,000 to this group in DOT and they'll take care of all your problems. Well, it never quite worked that way, but anyway, yeah, so I guess, my interest as a traffic engineer is like, one of the things we got I did get a 5-acre lot on Warren Road, and we don't need it, we're older, my wife and I, but it was like, it was tempting. And we've got turkeys and we got deer, and it's like, I like I don't want to see this area return to what LA was like with all the development, so and as far as Arno Road, yeah, I agree. I was looking at the data, it's like 24 to 32 feet wide for the obstacles, the mailboxes and everything, and it's like 50 miles per hour seems crazy to me. And that was kind of reinforced. I was taking my granddaughter to school like about 7:30 in the morning, and I was driving along and I saw something rustling on the right side of the road, and I was like, so I kind of I slowed down and I stopped, and there was this deer with big antlers. It was like just staring at me, and I was like, oh, good, I didn't hit it. And the next moment, it turned and it jumped into the opposing lane, and there was a driver. There was a bus driver coming the opposite way, 50 miles an hour, and he didn't even put on the brakes. He just, I don't know. I didn't see where all the deer parts went, but I was like, oh my goodness. I was gonna call, but I was like, yeah, I was gonna call the school and I never did. It's like, hey, maybe your bus driver was texting or something, but if he's driving kids, he better be aware of that. But anyway, so yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Hey, good morning. My name is Scotty Burnick. I'm a landscape architect with Reagan Smith. We're actually working here in Franklin and live in Franklin, just a few miles north of this side. So no low. I'm not a transportation engineer. Don't need to be a transportation engineer. We do have transportation engineers in our office. I do a lot with our company with general land planning, understanding a lot of the stuff with codes and pieces like that. So sort of like, big picture on a site like this, sort of the points that make it special. We heard a lot last night about the tree canopy and these sort of spaces and what we love and what we don't like. So I like to call myself sort of a transition between, maybe a land planning and engineering sort of, and what happens below ground, as well as above ground, and trying to make sure we're meeting the spirit of what we want, make sure it functions at the same time.
I call study a plane engineer.
Happy to be here.
My name's Julie Van Orman. I live on Cedarmont Drive. My biggest concerns are the commercialization. I would just am worried that if we put something in that corner, that's it's going to create suddenly we're going to be a commercial area, and I don't want that. Would be too big a change for our wonderful community. But the biggest thing why I came today was like developers don't ever seem to realize people have cars. Every development I've gone to anywhere, it's like, did you forget that people have cars? There's no place to park. They can't get in and out of places. And that's so Arno Road is just leaving the church last night. I was, oh my gosh, it's dark out here. This road is so skinny. But so that's my concern. Like people have cars, we do high density housing of any fashion, you've got to have a place for them to park. And then if the place turns into a big parking garage, well, that's an eyesore, so I don't know. You just have to remember, there are cars involved. Cedar Mine Drive.
Linda Foster.
That's okay.
What did you-
You be limited. Don't worry about it.
I'm wondering what was okay.
I'm Nelson, and this is Linda.
We live on 4280 Arno Road.
Right, the second house on the left, that across over the river. And we moved down here from Nashville, Tennessee, 1973. A little has changed. I second everything that's been said about the traffic, even now it was hard to get out of my driveway, so. A lot of it's a school traffic, morning and evening. But it isn't all of it. I remember one day, it took me an hour and 15 minutes just to get from my house to the post office. Ridiculous. So I don't know what else to tell you about that. I'm here as a spy for Arno, for Grace Church of Franklin. I've been an elder as existing.
You helped us solve our parking problem last night. We had such good attendance, we didn't know where the flow
Well,
was.
we have a parking, we
Yes.
have parking out in the back, but you have to go through that old road.
Yeah.
The shoe.
The chute, yeah, we call it the cattle chute.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned about people and the density of the buildings we're gonna have. What we said last night, that's way too many units on this amount of area. It's just too dense. Arno Road can't take it. We get the dump off of 840 and other areas, 96. And then we've got all the subdivisions, and there's 3 schools out in this area, and that's another thing. When you build all that stuff, you gotta have schools, which makes it more traffic.
Where those theater buses.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully there won't be any deer buses. Anyway, that it's all almost too much for this area. I feel like we've lived here a long time, and we've loved it because it's not so dense. And we know progress happens, growth happens, but we would like for it to be responsive, growth, and not overdo. Just don't overdo.
I'm Pat Walters. I live in Cedar Mine. On Warren Road, pretty close to this gentleman over here, 4191. And then, I, like everybody here, the traffic is the number one issue. I look at that map and what I heard last night is they're not going to get any access to Murfreesboro Road. Ingress to egress to subdivision. All coming on. I look at the map and I see 2 logical spots, which is the Cedar Mine Drive and whatever the road is, Albany Point is. I'm not knowledgeable in this area, but I just don't see anything else that works. And I think my wife at my drive is probably too close to like at Arno Road, 96. Which if that's the case, I can only see the light at Albany Point. The Albany Point people have clearly expressed they don't want. So the denseness is almost, I don't want it very dense on most of it. But if you don't have egress, I don't see how you can put a lot of people in and make it work. One of my also concerns is density. So I don't feel like it's with the other development around to have it be overly dense. So I don't know how they could access the bridge road, but need, but access has to be. Because that's the road that can handle the traffic. That's your problem, I think, but that's why you're here. We have to get out on the Arno Road every time we leave. If you're trying to get out of Arno, go to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's some, when Page High School.
We'll also work traffic. At 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock.
You're right.
I coach down at Page Middle School, and if I'm driving back this way, it's just a stream of traffic. No one stops at 96, you're supposed to stop, turn right on red, no one stops, it just keep going.
Is there like a 30-minute gap between the 3 o'clock traffic and the 5 o'clock traffic?
It might be, but,
Not much.
The traffic from Murfreesboro into the interstate, both in the morning and.
no, yeah.
Oh, sorry, we're not quite done.
Oh, sorry.
So in the back there, the table, introduction.
I'm Chelsea Randolph. I am a principal planner with, the city of Franklin.
And I'm Ariana Stanford, I'm a planner for the city of
Brian Loveland, I in Albany, actually the first house on the right, and you go into the subdivision, so terrified that I can sell a house soon. Don't want a light there. I had the other gentleman just said that would be, again, I used to live next to a stoplight, just hear the bass of cars, hear the exhaust. You already have, I mean, 500 going periodically through the night, but, yeah, here to speak. You guys,
Thank you, you're welcome. Our folks are by. So,
My name is Rick Carlson, and I control the swimming pool.
swimming pool.
And the reason that I've thrown that into this mix is because I think everybody and their brother hates Arno Roadway. And I think that's gotta be fixed. I was out there a couple Sunday mornings ago, somebody drove down that road literally 70 miles an hour. I'm not kidding. I mean, they were flying. If your daughter or granddaughter was coming out of that subdivision, turn left, somebody was gonna get killed. All right? I've seen it, and my heart goes out to you people that are trying to get out on that road, because I've seen it. I don't live on the road, but I've seen it. And it's gotta be fixed, and the sooner it's fixed, the better. And I think that that swimming pool pasture you talked about potentially could be part of that solution. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think we all agree that it's gotta change, and I think this is the best change, best chance of getting changed correctly. If any of you have been to Fairview, it's a disaster. 2-lane road going through the middle, it's bumper to bumper, almost all day long. If any of you have been through Spring Hill, it's a disaster. This is an opportunity to get this fixed right, okay? I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I would love to see it get fixed up.
I'm Brian, I'm a landscape architect. PVC. Brian. A new one, yes, sir.
I'm Kenneth Humphries, 4147 Arno Road, which we bought in 87, 38 years. I was 26 then, I'm not anymore. My beard has changed, my heart hasn't that much. I wanted, we came out here because I wanted to pretend farming. We got an 8-acre place, which was a tiny little lot back there. Albany Point, I can't remember the subdivision south of us. Albany Point meets us on 2 boundaries, and the other side, all of that was, cows and hay fields when we moved here.
Yeah.
And South Farthington and everything, which is what I like. We have horses and a couple of cows, and now we've got chickens and a cat and two pretty little speckled fawn deers that that were born this spring, and
For the buses.
raccoons and all that kind of stuff. And I like to pretend farm, run my tractor around, whatever. Arno is definitely a 65 bypass, especially if anything ever happens on 65. Everybody,
I haven't used it for that, so I haven't checked Google, but I imagine Google shows it as the way to get around. I'm not eager to have the traffic get heavier either, and I'm sure that, if you try to accommodate the traffic with a wider Arno, then that's gonna draw more traffic too, to get around, whatever you want to get around. Yeah, I'm not eager to have, such a dense development.
I'm Jessica Wilson. I am with TPUDC and I'm project director for the project.
So, you were talking about, you hope you don't have to sell soon. So there's hope. You've been here for 38 years, right? And all of you guys have come in that time, and he's still here. So that's good, right? That's a good news. But while it changes, it hasn't been unbearable for you guys. So what do you grow, by the way?
Excuse me?
What do you grow in your pretend farming?
Oh, right now we just have gardens, pretty good sized garden, but yeah, we just have a garden, and I use it. We don't actually have any Arno frontage. We've got a long driveway, and I use it to grade the driveway and whatever, and bush hog back in the pasture that the horses used to eat. I got that.
Yeah, and maybe I'm jumping too fast, but the mention of nothing off Murfreesboro, so it has to be on Arno, but is there consideration for the, that you can access? Okay.
No, so let me just clarify that. So the city, when we talked to the engineering department, said that they don't want any connections on 96 except for at the intersection.
That's great, right.
Oxford Lane, because that's a regional road, it goes all the way up to the Hewin. And if that were to happen, or when it happens, as part of the long-range transportation strategy, they warned a light there. So you have the start, that fact it was focused at 96, so that come out of Abington, yeah, or in the left, it's just like crazy. And
Or at 10 miles an hour.
what is it?
At 10 miles an hour to that.
Even faster.
Oh, yeah.
It's posted.
Oh, you mean posted, yes.
Posted 10 miles back.
When I first moved in, it was 45.
Yeah.
They raised it 5 miles an hour.
But didn't change the road.
It didn't change, oh, no, the roads have been the same ever since.
So the reason why I think that he's saying that there's not gonna be a connection is because if you look at our parcel line, there are 3 lots that we don't have right now. So we don't have access to the park. So,
So when is this development in the park?
I don't know, there's the whole process you go through. So for instance, with Armstead, sorry, I was talking about last night, our development across the west side. We did the charrette process like this 2 years ago. And we went through the rezoning and all that, and now we're working on our phase 1 site plan to submit to the engineering department for the first quarter of next year. So for that project.
So if you don't have that plan by that time, that you're ready to start developing this, you're gonna have to.
The city will want connection. So here's one of the things, so from
Sorry. Would thank you. Abington Ridge, would that be another point of access for this development versus having to come off?
Yeah, so let me zoom out for one second. I'll
Okay.
come right to that.
Yeah.
So just from a planning and engineering best practices, right? Someone zoom out 1 second before, and I realized last night that there's a section of my presentation that I didn't include for some why, that I should have, and I'll do it at the closing presentation, but all of the traffic that we're talking about right now, I did make a good point last night that you are your neighbor's traffic, right? So the traffic you're complaining about, your person who next to you is complaining about you the same way. But The issue is, the reason why we have that traffic is the way that development has occurred. So after World War II, when we started focusing everything on driving and hauling the cars and all that, disconnected roads, you know, in historic towns and cities, all the roads were connected, every intersection, there was none of this like, oh, I don't, we'll cut through my neighborhood, because all streets went through all neighborhoods. We started putting these cul-de-sacs in, flipping them off, and we're like, oh, it's so safe. Well, actually, they've done studies now, and statistically, it's not as safe in a cul-de-sac as you are on the street with stop signs and all that, because kids are sort of lulled into false sense of security, go play in the middle of the street, essentially in the cul-de-sac. So what we've done now is by clipping off all of the streets and all the neighborhoods and not connected, now you have to dump all the traffic onto these few roads, Arno and 96. The same thing you see it in Northville, in Spring Hill. All of these places that were built sort of after World War II, when we made that transition from walkable mixed-use places to Pittsburgh neighborhoods to suburbs, caused this problem. And so it seems counterintuitive to make these connections, because everyone has sort of grown up with these generations of that idea, like, oh yeah, I don't want connection. But the data's out, studies are in, everybody knows now, in the professional world, right now, the average citizen still so focused on disconnection and cul-de-sac. And so the city has a policy for connectivity. You can't build new streets in the city and new suburbs that aren't connected with something else. Even you have to stub in if there's a piece of property next to you, so that the next will connect in. What that does is it starts to alleviate the traffic on these roads. So for instance, in Bruce, I mentioned Ellenville, we did the zoning ordinance in Ellenville a couple of years ago. They're working on their long-range transportation plan, and they're like, what in the world do we do about Ellenville Road? It's like congested our city, we can't develop, even though we've got all this land to develop. And so what they have been working on is creating a parallel network of streets that would be run parallel to Ellenville Road. So we have multiple places you can go north-south instead of all going on Ellenville Road. Well, problem is, there's been a lot of development along the road, and it's all been in this disconnected network of streets. So now what they're having to do is, when new development comes in, it's actually creating the opportunity to make those parallel connections. And so new development is starting to solve their traffic problem, which seems crazy, but it does. So in this case, it's more constrained than that. So I'm not saying like, oh, we do something here, all the problems we solve, but we have the ability to have some big positive impact. So to your question about connection points, and from the city's perspective and best practice transportation planning wise, engineering wise, more connections, the better. So you don't put all the pressure on, because not everybody's trying to go the same way, right? So right now, if you want to go out and be safe, you go out of the Arno light, right? Well, that makes people go that way who probably weren't trying to go that way in the first place. And so if you make improvements, so like for Armistead, we're actually having to make off-site intersection improvements all the way up at Hillsborough Road, Franklin Road, like miles away from us. Because when you do a traffic impact analysis and you see like, okay, you know, they modeled it with a computer and it's accurate and understands, you know, oh, if you do this here and this many units are coming out here and this many people want to go this way, that many people want to go that way, you're going to have congestion and backup. And so this question about what to do at 65 and all that stuff is a big picture, holistic question that should be addressed by all the developments that are happening in this area. And I'm sure the city will hold everyone accountable for that. So yes, the city wants connections on Arno. They want connections on Abington, that one on 96. So yeah, we want to distribute the traffic instead of loading it all in one spot. So.
But it's still in a very short area of Arno Road.
Right. And so, you know, here's the thing, we've got this growth boundary and we aren't the full extent of that. And for those who were here last time, we talked about the urban growth boundary that the counties and cities have all put in place. And so they've agreed not to annex land outside of these growth boundaries. The county has changed their zoning, so you have 1 unit per 5 acres, which it didn't have before. And so the stated intended purpose is to push growth into the municipality, into the city limits and their urban growth boundaries. If any of you, I know there's one person here from the CARE group last night. I know that they were involved in giving public comment on you know, long-range plan and those sorts of things. And so there, compensation, there's, we don't want to be included in the public growth boundary. I don't know if they got excluded from it. But that has been voted on and sort of that boundary has been decided. And so we're within that. And the number of units that she was referring to, so one of the things that I said over and over is, you know, we don't have a plan. I don't know how many units. The number of units that I mentioned was we did some math, sort of back in the that, and where we said, okay, we're in the urban growth boundary, which means, and we're on the high suitability map from the city's perspective for development potential and annexation. So it's a likely annexation if a right limit, and utilities come, you know, just north of us, I guess, and
Annexation into the.
into the Franklin.
Yeah.
And so once you annex into the city has its comprehensive plan called Envision Franklin, which is the sort of strategy and looking to the future, and has these things called design concepts. So kind of like future land uses, if you will. And right now we are partially in the neighborhood commercial on the corner. It's sort of shown as intended for commercial, and then the rest of it is shown as residential. And so then if you look at what the likely zoning districts are based on what it says in Franklin, for some of the metrics and character of that, you end up being either R4 or R6, some combination of both actually. And then I did sort of 50-50. If you said half of it was on board, half of it was R6, which is 4,000 square foot lot and 6,500 square foot lots. Then that totaled up to, based on the amount of land we had, minus 20% for infrastructure, minus 5% for open space, et cetera, ended up being about mathematically, theoretically, based on the city standards, about 355 units, which seems like a lot. Yeah. So, and
Seems like a lot, it is a lot.
so we heard it. Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I got a question, I guess. Supposedly,
We're going
we're
to
going,
clarify with that. We're not proposing that.
Sure.
That was just the map. So
But I mean, they bought this to make money at some point. There's
would
this,
like to make money.
I mean, there's this LLC they create. I watched them buy this stuff for the last 10 years. They're not in this for fun. No one's in this for anything except to make money at some point. And so why would they not try and stack houses in there?
We didn't at Armistead. So we could have done more at Armistead than we did. But, and that's what I was talking about last night, sort of like the reason that we're involved is because we take on projects to do things differently, to make special places. And we do this whole weird process of inviting the public in before we start and all that. Like everything's different about what we do. And so, you know, we've made it clear that we're not interested in being involved if the only intended purpose is to go max out the number of units. So
The other thing is, if they've been buying this property for 20 years, they're gonna make money, no matter how they sell it, no matter what they do, they're gonna make some money.
And that's one of the things that I'm so thankful for, because if they had bought it last year,
Sure.
then it'd be a whole different story. And so and that's part of why we were comfortable getting involved. So.
yeah, so, yeah, I guess traffic engineering, yeah, it's like, this is only supposed to go for another 15 minutes. And we haven't even discussed, like, I mean, we haven't gotten into the nitty gritty of the roads. I think, like, I don't know, I was just looking at, like, I guess DDOT has requirements. In areas, you can have 1,200 foot distance between intersections. In rural, it says up to half a mile, but I guess you're saying, so I think you almost have to, I mean, you can't really do any kind of traffic analysis unless you got some assumptions as to what you're gonna do. So if you're not gonna get this property at Oxford Glen, I would say that the only other thing you could do is to connect to this Abington Ridge. Now, if they don't put a signal there, that's, I don't know, DDOT would go along with putting a signal at Abington Ridge, but you've got to have a left turn out of, you've got to have a traffic signal on Murfreesboro to get that traffic out. And then the other thing is, what do you do on Arno Road? I mean, most people, and I agree, you don't want to pour more traffic going up Arno Road. So if you put a signal here or something, I mean, at the very most, and I don't know if that's, but there's probably a lot of people living in this subdivision are going to be going to Page with that. So rather than have them drive all around and come back down, you might like have a left, have it diverted, a concrete diverted, so they can't make a right turn here, come up this way, but they can go on Arno if they wanted, you know. And otherwise they would have to use that route, but I'd like, yeah, I was just wondering if we're gonna get into some,
No.
it's like,
Not to that level of detail.
we're not gonna get into
No,
it.
because everybody
Where-
have that knowledge.
Where,
So,
yeah, but where are the driveways? I mean, where are the possibilities for driveways and what are, that's,
yeah, I mean, typically, when we're talking about that connectivity that the city's interested in and is best practice, you want to line up intersections, right? And so if you look at where the other intersections are along Arno, it seems like those would be, you know, logical spots for it. The, when, you know, we've initially been thinking that, and I think we talked to some people from Abington already, you know, they're currently like experiencing trying to come out of the property and turn left on 96. It was horrifying. And so, you know, but you don't want to also go down Abington to the south and go, you know, all the way down and then get on Arno, go all the way to the intersection. And so what we were thinking was having a connection into our site so that they could safely kind of go through us, driving through the neighborhood, thing that isn't, you don't see as a problem, so they come through and then they get safely out at the light, you know. So making that connection there, flexibility for them.
So now you're taking not only the development you're talking about, for people that are living in Amsterdam Ridge, come through whole development, okay, here to the light, needs are gonna be more traffic on our.
Depends on if that's the only light, right?
Well, I mean, you said that the county already told you, the only access to 96 is gonna be off Oxford, but you don't own that property, to get access to it.
The only omnidirectional,
Pardon me?
the only omnidirectional, access to, so we, you know, the only place where they put a light is.
Yeah, I understand.
Is that they could have put that.
they can't go run into Abington Ridge.
Um,
Have you approached them for that?
We haven't approached them at all.
Yeah, I think, you know, because the road there to the Oxford Glen Road is a regional road, because the other one that, you know, at Abington, you know, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
Just for that, you know, situation.
But it would, yeah, it would be for that and your whole development here as well.
Yeah, so, you know, ultimately too, then, you know, you have the ability to not have to go, you know, so all directions, but, I mean, we're talking about 40 houses or whatever that are over there. It's not that many. So again, like this idea of connectivity, I know it's intuitively seems concerning, you know, there's like, we'll get into it more in detail, and also 2 months to your point, when we get into details. Once we have developed a concept, then we have to go through and do this very detailed traffic analysis, and it'll say exactly how many people, it'll say, you know, this way, this intersection, that intersection, what's the delay that's created at here, this or that or the other, and, so it's, all those questions will be answered, but we have to, you know, have a concept first as we go through. Because, for instance, if we say, oh yeah, we're gonna connect to Abington, and all of a sudden now, you know, we've added 500 cars to the Arno Road intersection, then that's not the thing to do, right? And so that's you kind of look at have a concept, and then you adjust the plan based on the traffic, right? Make changes based on. Yes, sir.
Right. Touch something, not just traffic. Talk a little bit about the water pressure thing. About a year ago in Albany Point, we had a structure plan. Okay. The home actually was first. The problem with, even in our son, we didn't have enough water by the day, put up that pretty tank. Okay. Put another 600 homes in there, using the same water from the same outlet over in Cedar Mine. That's what they'll drop in that thousand. Where would we get the water pressure from anything?
That's it. Yeah. I live on, Cedar Mount Farms. And the Crofton's built a brand new giant water tower.
Understand?
And that's gonna, the water pressure comes from the weight of the water in the tower.
Is it finished?
It's very close to finishing.
So there's regulation, you know, like, and again, part of the analysis and study we have to do is for all the utilities and the water and all that, and so it's allowed to go and impact people's water pressure and, you know, make their
understand, and I understand what North Boston's doing, I knew structure was going in and everything else. But again, you're talking $1 million home, Petermont, Albany Point, Abington Ridge. Okay? You can't support the water right now, right? You gotta make sure we got enough water to sustain this stuff. For fire protection.
We agree.
We agree, okay?
And we're just literally not allowed to have anything that impact on any other.
I just wanna make sure that everybody's aware of that, because, you know, we're talking $1 million homes here.
Right, and one of the things that we hear too, that one of the things that when we hear stories like that, where you've got water pressure issues, or you've got flooding or whatever, we often hear that when you are in county, when you are in an older subdivision and all of those things, and we actually, oh, yeah, that actually make it better. That's just one of those things that can get better through development. You know,
Does this, you get your plan, this goes to the city. Okay, so they have meetings also and you can voice your concerns there.
yeah, this is all this bonus, this is extra.
We appreciate that.
Welcome.
Brian, on the topic of water pressure, all that stuff. We all, on me, have our septic in the front yard.
Yeah.
When I moved into my house, I paid a lot of money for a septic study. Because, there's issues with our land as the time goes on that our perk values are going down, pressure the soil and stuff. Very worried that whatever you guys do there is going to continue to impact the soil through runoff or whatever else. And we have a septic flat because this used to be, my understanding from my studies that the guy gave me was, we actually have septic flats, defined flats in our houses from the 80s. Apparently that wasn't really common back then, but it is for our houses. And so we can't just freely move our septic stuff around without paying a lot of money. And so I think you've already replaced yours, so you're on your backup already. This is at the very front. Collier Engineering was going to do this Arno road widening on our side 5 years ago, and we had the impacts of our septic system and stuff. So we're just concerned about water runoff, all the effects of that, because I'm assuming you guys are going to be annexed into the city, but we won't, right? We'll still be in the county on our side.
Right. Unless you want.
Right, but that comes,
We don't.
but you know, but that doesn't drag sewer into our property, it'll create a connection between the tap and all that stuff, so we're still gonna be on septic. Next to a huge subdivision that could potentially impact the water tables and whatever else we have going on our land. Which could impact our ability to have our septic, right?
No, I mean,
Well,
I know
our
what you're
perk,
saying, but we're just not, we aren't able to do that. It's like there's federal and state local regulations that don't allow us to do things. And like, I mean, think about it, if a development, well, say, has happened in the past. I was gonna say, think about it, that would be horrible if the development came in across the street and all of a sudden your well ran dry or septic didn't work or whatever. So luckily these days, it's quite frequent, especially in Franklin. It's sort of next level on everything, but I go concerned.
Okay.
And you should ask those as we go through.
Yeah, and-
Point about the city process and all that, come and ask those things so you make sure you.
so my house being run off the well then. I mean, you guys are not allowed to touch that, how do you guarantee that? You guys have like
That's why we-
cistern studies and stuff?
engineers, That's what, absolutely, yeah, that's how you. And it just come, plays around.
And so then, but if some of that is because this thing is fed by runoff of the natural topography of the area, that you guys can't change that, right? That's how this works for the planning?
Right. We've got to deal with our own water and everything on our own site, and it didn't used to be that way back in the day.
Sure, yeah, I mean, all the stuff you're talking about is because they can just do what they wanted back then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know when back in the day was, but, 4 or 5, well, we had a pond, runoff pond, about 2/3 the size of this room. Until about 4 years ago, and one of the developments on Albany Point changed the runoff, and our pond's dry now, you know, we don't have a pond anymore.
So you're in the county.
Huh?
You're in the county?
I'm in the county.
Okay. I don't know the county's regulations as well, but it could.
I mean, it happens. I mean, my well ran dry 4 years ago, same thing. I mean, these things impact stuff that may not be in your guys' boundary of study, you know, but this stuff does matter. I mean,
So what they're saying is basically, you guys are gonna be in the city, so you're gonna follow your city rules, but then the
Exactly.
county's not gonna bail us out.
Well, we have to, we'll be held to a higher standard in the city than in the county.
The county ponds are 0%, so it's not that much different, and there'll be aquifer studies and groundwater studies, and it'll be part of what we have to do through to understand what y'all are doing now. I mean, there's well maps that y'all, like all regulated wells, there's maps on this kind of stuff, and
even
because-
while we're drilled in the 50s and 60s.
yeah, I think they map all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, will have to understand where they are and understand what's feeding them and that kind of stuff. It's part of the studies that'll come with it.
And one of the real benefits of a master plan development where you've got sort of larger acreage taken down at one time, that all this can be done more holistically. Now, you know, had this been a collection of parcels of individual 2 and 3 acre parcels that were just individually transferred, then that type of incremental change is you don't have the resources or the you know, or just the ability to actually deal with stormwater, utilities, traffic in a holistic way. So that's why this type of development is, you know, in a lot of ways, it's better for the surroundings because you're able to be more deliberate and intentional about how you develop.
Just, you know, and I actually got to go that, just, they widen 96, I know this is the county stuff, these are just things that we think about, they widen 96. Now water streams down our driveways, through our yards, destroys our plants and everything because they just pushed the stormwater, but they didn't have to care about it, all right, they just went far enough, they dug the trench, and then it just floods our yards down there, or since they widened it. So I mean, if you guys are responsible for all that stuff, that's fine, I just wanna.
Well, that's you know, I mean, if that's happening, then you should ask maybe even Brad or some others to take a look at what's happening, and you may have a case.
We did, they came out and like.
They
dug
got
our
my ditch
hole.
a little sharper.
Yeah.
And now my mailbox is like 5 times because so it was just, like, literally the white line is the edge of the pavement.
Yeah.
If you just happen to like this, fell over and now I'm rebuilding my mailbox at the time versus total.
The other last point was on the schools that you guys mentioned schools, and my kids going to Trinity for this year. There's gonna be a bus stop on the road. This neighbor's turning over, just getting, you know, younger people are moving in, there's more kids and stuff, should be a lot of bus stops on Arno Road as well already. Worried about the traffic impact there, and then also the school capacity. I mean, Trinity is almost at capacity apparently, and so I know they're gonna pull their school, but you know, that's just kind of how it is, you know?
Yeah, middle school and high school to capacity too.
Yeah, I mean, Page's huge, but it used to be anyways.
Yeah, I need some empty.
And they just remodeled everything.
Yeah,
I mean, they just built
Maybe.
huge
right.
buildings out there. Well, I think Page Mill's at 1,400 students. Used to be 400 or 500.
Right. One thing you said, I just need to get this down here. So you said that they tried to widen Arno 5 years ago, but your septic field driven away.
Yeah.
So I was telling that story last night because I'd heard that and flags were in the yard and everything, and then they realized it was septic, which you thought they would have figured out before that, before they flagged it. But then somebody told me, no, that didn't happen. And so that happened in y'all's yard.
We talked to Boyer from there.
Hey, okay, good. That was verified.
I'm Johnny completely, but I'm trying to get a building permit for a garage. The lady that I'm gonna go apply for a building permit told me about it in Franklin or that Williamson County Building Department. So.
Okay, yeah. Like
Like,
we had heard
it's
it. I
rocket
didn't
science,
think-
it's out there.
So what, you know,
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you guys have all these properties, you can widen the road on that side.
We can
Right,
come in.
I mean, because that was the other issue, they couldn't take it because of this building that must have been a church back then, it's really close to the road or whatever. They couldn't push on that side, so they just were just like, well, and then COVID hit, and they got, this is pre-COVID, so it was, you know, 5 or 6 years ago.
Because, yeah, we thought, once we had heard that you couldn't go to the south and stuff, we were like, oh, well, to your point, we've got land, we
Right.
go our way, and that might be one of those sort of positive benefits that, you know, so I'm glad that that was a true story.
I have a word to you point of all this. I see my entire life, I view everything's an exploded points of view. And I'm gonna be 55 years old and I've done a lot of different things to work. And I'm struck by a point in my life, I think the man that won an award from UC Berkeley for engineering and architecture for the fire station. He was just so proud of himself that it's 35 years old. What do you think of my masterpiece to this point. And I approached it as the fireman has to clean it. The fireman pays the utility bill. Fireman has to be interrupted in the middle of the night because people, it's such a great cornerstone of of the community that they feel like it's theirs. And at 9:30 at night, when I'm going down to get a glass of water, I'm interrupted because the doors don't lock because they're this majestic piece of mahogany. And I just said, I really wish that you, the architect and engineer, would have talked to the guy that's got to build it, the fireman that has to live in it.
Yeah.
Because what happens outside is happening inside. And I know that it's beautiful, but it's a goldfish bowl. So I freeze my keister off all winter, sweat it off all summer. I got cobwebs everywhere. I can't keep the place and I have zero privacy. And there, and it's just, there's a disconnect. So I look at this Charlotte's Web. You guys, unfortunately, are dealing with stuff that happened 30 years ago and stuff that's going to happen 20 years in the future. This isn't rocket science, but yet it's very complicated. And the problems you're looking at trying to avoid, all you got to do is go to look in master plan communities in Texas that are now being shut down because they have zero water in the region. Go to California and look at what's going on. Sure, we all hate California, but look at what's going on in California. So, yeah, but I mean, it's right now, unfortunately, the reservoirs on Warren Road are feeding past work. They say there's a certain capacity, but I'm telling you right now that is barely keeping up with what is right's going on right now. And I get that you're not a part of this yet, but it's going to be your problem. And unfortunately, it's going to be our problem. And right now, for the life of me, when I'm looking at this and we're talking about traffic, you're looking at the end game of where it's going to be when it's done and the checks have cashed. I'm looking at what is this going to be now, between now and the time you finish it. And I know human nature is to take the path of least resistance, and all of that construction traffic is going to make a really disaster because Murfreesboro is too fast, it's too wide, it's too this, there's no access. So I don't even understand unless you guys start with the infrastructure of widening Arno on a 4-lane road with suicide lanes. I don't see how you guys are going to get construction grading material in and out effectively and cost effectively and safely. And it just, I look at this and I understand that there's a lot of money at stake, and at the end of the day, it's cashing in those checks that's going to drive this project.
I mean, we're gonna be in a construction zone for 4 years.
Yeah, and
Few years.
that's fine, but if I'm gonna be in a construction zone for the next 4 years, I don't wanna have to keep rebuilding my mailbox. I don't wanna have to worry about Mackenzie catching the bus in the morning. And whatever you're doing here, that just means Cedarmont's now gonna be busy, because that's it's a very rough way to get out of here, but it's a path of least resistance. The city of Franklin doesn't want to have undue burden put on them. We can't do that yet. It's in the plan, but yet you guys are happy to burden us now with what's going on. And let's face it, you say that you can't dump your problems on us. The problems have already been dumped on Arno Road. It's been going on for 30 years. Anything you do is going to create a bigger problem until it's done. And then people eventually trickles down and realize, oh yeah, we can take XYZ path through Murfreesboro to get to that light. But we're talking decades down the road before that actually occurs. And it really concerns me that, okay, we're going to do shade studies. Okay, great. I've been a part of many, many shade studies. And the engineer is disconnected from the person whose shade you're studying. You say you talk to them, but yet you're taking notes, listening to them, but you don't hear what they're trying to say. Rob is able to irrigate because he has a well. Yet every winter we're flooded, and not a little bit. Like I've got pictures of his daughter standing up to her knees in our front yard, and you watch it come off of Arno Road from Murfreesboro. It's not supposed to happen, but the county did that to us. And we are downhill from your project. And that's just one aspect. Do I think there could be benefits to this? Yes. I think it's going to be great that you're going to have to underground all your utilities, and suddenly we're going to have high-speed fiber optics and all this and that and other, and you're going to have to connect us to it. So we're going to be off the hook for about 20 grand worth of infrastructure. That's one of the side benefits. There is good with the bad. But it takes a long time, and a lot of heartache to get to that good. And I don't know, this is why she doesn't let me talk to people. But, I just hope that you hear what we're saying, you know, I feel like Arno Road has to be the first order for this, period. You guys, I know that you don't want to set up streets and so on yet. And again, this is just coming from a fireman and a guy that's been in construction my entire life. And I got sent in as the union rep to meetings like this to discuss colossal disaster, what will occur. I just hope that you guys put pen to paper and at least draw a thumbnail sketch of what you want.
We will, yeah.
So-
On next Tuesday night, we'll present a plan, like when.
But what I'm saying is run forward with that to us and let's model it so that. Because you're gonna know fairly accurately with these models about what because you're gonna have to change a lot of topography. And move a lot of dump trucks worth of dirt around that property. See what it's gonna do, because it's gonna affect him, it's gonna affect drainage. It's gonna, you know, you're gonna, I'm assuming you're probably have to put in a private septic for the meantime. You know, so you hook up to the sewer that the city says doesn't have the capacity, or you're gonna put in a septic treatment plant somewhere. But if you have a thumbnail sketch that you can start overlaying for everybody to see. And show it in real time, okay, for the first 5 years, this is winding Arno down to Age High School. And, you know, I understand that you guys don't want to have to do that.
No, we do.
That may be one of the things that happen.
How else could we, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's like we're saying, hey, we're gonna do a development in the middle of all of your homes, you know. We'll figure it out, you know, trust us, I'm saying trust us in some regard, like. That we are actually creating this plan in real time and those sorts of things. But when it comes to the technical side of things, no, we have to show you, we have to prove it. We have to, you know, spend lots of money on engineers and do all the studies and, you know, using, you know, approved techniques and methodologies from the city and all that. And all that will be available. It'll be part of our submission to the city. And so it'll be, you know, very transparent. And, you know, ultimately in some cases, you know, we'll do a traffic study and we'll say, you know, oh, well, there's, you know, the problem at this, the parking study is one that we often still happen. So in a, like, let's say in downtown Franklin, you do a parking study, you say, okay, we actually went out and counted parking spaces at peak times. And we have about 80% vacancy, you know, which is kind of what you want, basically. And no, absolutely not. I was there last night and I could not park in front of Red Pony when I went there in front of every dinner. And I was like, so in the disputing the data at that point, you know, it's like that study's invalid. I know that's not true. I was like, yes, there's parking space, parking lot behind it and one block down and those sorts of things. So if there is there are part of the studies that when you do them that you question, like the validity of, then, you know, we're happy to go through it to talk to you about it.
Does Arno Road belong to the county or the city?
Big county.
So presenting something to the city doesn't help. Don't
They
you have
work
to-
together, but there's a.
So are you gonna say that the project can't proceed until Arno one?
They're probably gonna say that.
Yeah,
They, the county?
the cap, all of the above, yeah. So like, for instance, like Armistead, like, we have to widen Highway 96 in front of our the old development before we can get a signation. So they won't let us do anything, till that's just, they're called offside road improvements.
So
Where's your water coming? Sorry, one second, we're over time, y'all. We, not the end of it, we keep talking, but anybody who needs to leave, we won't have to leave or talk to our chairman.
I just want to get back to okay, Tuesday, the plan. I'm like, I got this mysterious thing. What are you gonna show Tuesday? But, you know, I've got, you know, problem with not having any roads or suddenly any driveways or anything. Is that all gonna be on there Tuesday?
We'll have roads, we'll have lot.
My question is like, why not get some preliminary look? Like, if you look at this swatch here, well, I could probably only put one road here. It's only wide enough We can't put 2 or 3 roads, right? So it's gonna be one road here. And if you're gonna have a road coming off here, maybe it comes here or here or whatever, and you make a connection.
Yeah, that'll all be.
When you get to the housing, you get to the open space, it's like, you can't talk about, like maybe you're gonna put a circle here and you're gonna put multi-density, multi-housing here. You got it on the map, you can kind of see, okay, hey, this is where it's gonna go.
I will.
This is where we're gonna go. But if we get to that, we're gonna get to that segment today about housing and we're like, well, this is a type of housing, but where's it gonna go? Where's the open space gonna go? You're like in a kind of a bond until Tuesday, then all of it's there. Then there's a lot to talk about. It's like, oh, okay, well,
That's right. And we will.
that's what it's gonna be.
We'll do a Q&A at the end of that, and you'll give your feedback on what we've drawn on it. So for those who aren't used to the process, just for Ken, right, like, come and participate in this process, but just imagine that Tuesday is really when we're starting the process, right? That's when normally you'd be invited to, like, we've got a plan, what do you think? And we're doing all this in advance of that, regardless of, I know that it blows people's minds sometimes, but on Tuesday, all of your questions will.
Yeah, I gotta kind of preface. I mean, I'm from LA, everything was developed, right? So they've already got, where the driveways are and that, so this is kind of.
And they don't do this process in most places. I mean, like, honestly, we work all over the country, right? And I mean, besides, the Armistead charrette that we did for that project, they use that word a lot in planning around the country. They say charrette, but a lot of times charrette means like one night meeting. You're here and you get to talk for 2 hours and then they go away to the secret laboratory and come up with their plans and come back and do another charrette. And like for us, it's a multi-day embedding process. This is our office, even though our office is just down the street. My whole team is here. We're gonna be here morning, noon, and night and kind of all the stuff. And so, as we go through this, it's kind of like your point about if they had just talked to the firefighters and the people before they designed the building. The same thing, right? So that's what we're doing now. It's a little different because ultimately, unless I've actually come up to me last night and said, I'm a little worried about this, but it sounds like it might be kind of cool. I might actually want to move in from across the street. And so some of you may be end users. So it's different in that regard. But, ultimately, let's say that the building was such a fraction that the neighbors had to then deal with the people coming and walking into the building and not, if they have, So who asked the question second?
Water supply, is that city or county?
Yes, we'll be on city water.
You have nothing to do with the problem.
Oh, they're on. You can be the city on.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yes,
Bill Crawford,
Yeah, it would be Mill Crawford.
we are in a wet stage in Winton County right now. We've had more rain this year. Right now, you can't believe it because it's so hot, but most of the time, just about every summer, we are on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday to irrigate. So if you're gonna develop this right here, where are you gonna do, where are you gonna get the water? Because there's not. All you have to have is just a little bit of a dry spell. You can't water again.
Yeah, so, again, like with the traffic, we have to, go through our utility companies. We say, here's what we're planning on doing. Here's the amount of, number of units or square feet of commercial or whatever the things are we come up with. And they actually go and they say, do we have capacity for your development? If the answer is no, then you can't do your development, or they expand facilities. And that's one of the things that's interesting, in our work around the country, we hear a lot of times people are like, well, we don't have capacity for this, for that, or the other. And so it's interesting to me, as if that's a limiting factor. But the facilities we have now, to y'all's point, they've expanded them. They were less before, and before that, they were less, and before that, they were none. And so the farmer would get water out of the creek and all that stuff. And so as growth occurs, so the infrastructure expands, and that's why, like in the police in the city, we have these, quite expensive impact fees that they pay now. They've just increased this past year.
Yeah, but they haven't caught up yet. The infrastructure is still below what it should. I mean, we don't have enough water.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know about that. I'm not.
well, I do because I can't water my flowers.
Yeah.
I mean,
This year, I think, because we've had quite a bit of rain today.
I hear what you're saying. And it's fresh news, great, I hope it's true. Again, what the problem we have is we have one string with many knots attached to it. Every time you tug a string, it takes it someplace else. You gotta do that with electricity and water and sewer, clean air, accessibility and all this stuff. At the end of the day, and on top of, you got ADA compliance and you want to do inclusive environment with everybody that wants, all this stuff. So there's many aspects to this. And we can't change the fact that Mother Nature only has so much water. There's only so much to go around and they distribute it throughout the earth, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they have expanded sewer and water and electricity, but again, they are meeting last year's expectations. Since that point, since that design was complete and they started construction, it's already outpaced it. And as a fireman, I can tell you, you're gonna have an engineer signal tell you, we got plenty of water. But we have a recent history of where we had plenty of water with the reservoir that was dry. Multiple reservoirs that are dry for whatever city plan. I don't want that for anywhere, let alone my neighborhood. I understand that we're on Mount Prospect and I got a 3/4 inch water main coming in. But I can tell you right now, my water pressure sucks. And after you put in your, let's say it's only 100 homes. By definition, the water tower that they're putting in is already a capacity. It's gonna be the same or less than what we've got because you have 100 more users. I just really hope that you put the money where your mouth is and make sure that it can't be its own standalone thing because it's almost like a parasite. It depends on the surroundings to get its lifeblood, the electricity, the traffic, sewer, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, your project is impacting how many hundreds of homes directly and ultimately thousands around it. And, I want for everybody what I want for myself, a decent standard of living, a quality of life, being able to do what you want with your property. And what I want is not to have to fix my mailbox a 6th time. I don't want to have to worry about mechanics. I like his yard the way it is. I like his yard. Mine is a disaster right now, but I like that we have this quality of life. And there will be growing pains while it's being built, but at the end, it ends up being the ancillary people in the perimeter that pull back.
Yeah, and you just made a good point too. You want the same thing for you as for everybody else. And, a lot of times when we hear that nothing that you all have said today is an unusual symptom when development is proposed, right? And you go, well, what about my water pressure? What about my well? What about my traffic? What about this and that, the other thing that, I don't know, I guess maybe in some developments and areas where they're just like going as fast as they can and they just get in and get out, move on and do all that stuff. But ultimately, even if the developer doesn't care at all about the neighbors, right? It would be a terrible thing if a developer didn't care about the neighbors. Let's assume they did. They do care about the people that they're trying to sell to their development. And so if your water pressure is bad, their water pressure is bad. If the traffic is bad for you, it's bad for them. And all of those things. So it's actually in the best interest of the developer to solve any problems that are currently existing to make their project more desirable. And oftentimes that costs money. It takes money. And that's what I was talking about last night. The idea that development sometimes solves problems that currently exist. What Greg was saying about sort of being able to take on things like stormwater holistically. We were working on Amelia Island, Florida, I think I was project there, and there was a neighborhood that flooded for decades. And the water was all coming off the site that we were looking at for development. And so we're like, oh, we literally can solve your flooding problem through this development. We can catch that water that's going off of our site currently, it's just in woods and nature right now, and fix that. And, you know, and so those are the things when I talk about a lot of things, like, you don't want development to just be a net negative to the community, right? The neighbors, there needs to be something of benefit. And so we talked about parks and trails and those sorts of things, but some of the more technical things we take on as a good challenge for things where we actually can help, so that ultimately the neighbors aren't hated. They're like, oh, thank goodness you came here, because now I have a luxurious shower and have, you know, I had to turn down the water because it's, you know, too hot, you know, whatever. So, but we need to, that's why we have these meetings. People make, sometimes they're like, that wasn't a technical meeting. Like, well, it was. Now I learned about your water pressure, and you know, the city department doesn't tell me about your water pressure, but now we know to look at those things. I wish that some folks from the city utilities have been able to come and talk to them. They had a conflict today, but we'll be able to get more specific answers, you know, as we go this week about capacity and some of these things. We'll share that with them that we've heard, and hopefully I'll be able to report back on what we learned from this on next Tuesday night.
So I do have a question about innovation. What are you planning to do about changing the use of water? What I mean by that is we flush our toilets, clean drinking water. We irrigate our yards with drinking water. What are you doing to think about water recycling, rain collection, and irrigation with recycled water? Specifically, I just call it general rainwater system. Is that even on your guys' radar?
I'm so happy you just said that. Innovation is one of my favorite words. And to keep up back to Armistead, but one of the things that we're doing at Armistead is it will be a national model for development in many ways. One, agriculture, with 50% of the land is stated productive agriculture, sort of amongst around our villages and hamlets that we've designed there. But the other thing that we're doing that people will come in to around the country is sustainable stormwater system. So we're doing natural infiltration, all these things. We're doing rainwater reclamation, and we're doing whatever that's the name. We're literally going on like, what's the latest in innovation in all these different aspects, and trying to incorporate it. So one of the things about a project like this is, you know, like, for those who weren't here last night, we heard fewer units, the better. You could imagine. But one of the things that I always struggle with is when we tamp down, the things that start to go immediately are those things, like the extras. Yes, exactly. And so it's like, we aren't trying to maximize the value on this property, thankfully. But I want to make sure that we have enough to be able to do some of these other things and to, you know, work hard to solve some of these problems. Like, because the one thing we can't do is make them worse, but we aren't part to solve. So trying to figure out ways to sort of like all of us to help work together and come up with something that is a win-win. It's kind of where my head's at, but I love it. So if you've got like a list of things that you want to just write it down and drop it off to us, like, here's all these kind of things I would love to see in this development, assuming that's heard. Anybody else?
Yeah, are you, I'm really concerned about some of this traffic going on. And I know what your constraints are. But you stubbed something out on the Oxford Glen.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And you can't buy that property.
Absolutely. I mean, for us, we were really just, you know, I'm just gonna say, I think we really didn't have a spot. And, you know, it's for a number of reasons, just because we believe the connectivity is a good thing, you know, makes things sort of more viable, better, easily, more easily accessed. We knew that it would be, from the neighbor's perspective, be a good, desirable thing. And so, yes, we will.
They, you know, as you know, recently widened Murfreesboro Road, and there's a, I think it's a Trinity crossing. If you go out past or Chapel, the next intersection. They changed that intersection when they widened Murphy Road, so the streets don't go straight across. Go, this one comes out this way, and then this one comes back this way. Is there any possibility of doing something like that?
Not such a straight shot.
It's not a straight shot at all. I don't know what was the impediment that they didn't do the obvious one.
Which roads?
It's.
Trinity.
Trinity is 96.
So there's that big creek there that went over. Yeah.
Oh, this is the old aerial, so I'll look at that, see.
We live in Albany Point across there, and are you proposing putting an access road into development on Arno?
Yeah, so far we are proposing, it's likely that the city wants there to be connections to Arno. And what we were saying earlier was that typically you want to require support intersections for lines. So I know if you get very traffic on the speed, we can try to get out on Arno in your street. How they go.
It's like, it would be an act, I mean, I don't know how you would like navigate that, but I saw the post and on Arno Road now, kind of across from us, like on the I'm not sure if that was, looks like that might be according, like looking at the map and then looking at that state. That looks like that might where's that?
We gotta stay there.
Okay, okay.
But, so, yeah, sorry, he's out of there. You said they're orange. It's a Crompton. Likely to care for it. We did have a connection there after gas, ultimately to connection. Putting up there, the lights that's not. Would it be beneficial or I like that?
Yeah, well, again, I like that's been here. It's not really justified in the problems.
Currently, that's right. Yes, and that's one of those things too. So that's a great example. So it was
If
just like,
people aren't, I'm sure you know what to say to one, but people that aren't in the subdivision.
right, right. So what they were saying was,
When I
Yeah, there's-
left, I like there, just break up traffic. I've got 2 weeks to get out of 6.5.
Oh,
I think Cedarmont is probably worse getting out than ours, just because the visibility, I think, is a little bit, and people are being in on that.
it creates a break wherever the light is. Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I think, I don't know if anybody else is from our neighborhood, but I think it would be really impactful to the neighborhood. I think so. I think it is a concern. You know, one of the reasons that we moved out to the county is because we like peace and the quiet, tranquility, like we're right on the county line. And that is really going to disrupt, we're fearing it's really going to disrupt the reason why people are coming out to that area. Obviously. And it's concern for our property values. Property values have increased quite a bit. People are coming from, I'm a real estate agent, they're coming from California and stuff, because they want acreage, they want peace. They also want access to 65 and they want, you know, so it's, I think probably Cedarmont and probably Albany, which is really just something how it's going to affect on values and the overall static of what you're trying to achieve. And I see the map, I know you're asking for input, but it's just kind of hard to visualize even what you are visualizing. Are you have a plan or you're just
Well, next Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah, we'll really working on well, real time this week, we'll be creating a plan. Yeah, we're going to take
Okay. It's a little backwards, I think.
Yeah.
and-
What about next Tuesday? Is that something you're gonna have another? When people actually get a chance to see what you drew up there, I'm sure that's gonna cause them to identify things that they either like or don't like there. You know, then would you make changes based on the input?
Yeah, so, you know. So I always use the examples where like, you know what we really need around that type of space. And like, there's the thing you're gonna do, you know, so there are things like, and I've already heard stuff from last night and today. From like, oh, wow, yeah. That gives me an idea, we can do this. I've been loving talking, but can't start sketching, it's not even back over there, so looking forward to it, but, so yeah, so we'll do a Q&A again, we'll present the plan and the rendering and all that stuff, and there'll be things where, I will promise you, there'll be things where you're like, and there'll be things like, okay, so it's not, the thought, the instructions will be like, it's not a yes or a no, like be specific, tell me the things you do like, the things you don't like. And then we'll, see what we can do. Now, one thing that just occurred to me while we're talking today, I'm gonna show this mystical Armistead plan that I keep talking about, because I heard last night from people saying, well, developer will draw a plan and show it to us and get us, and then they'll do something totally different. And I'm gonna show the plan that was generated during the charrette and the plan that has been submitted to the city for zoning and gotten approved and all that stuff. And you will likely not be able to find the differences. And that's kind of our approach is that, and that was a little different because there was not one person who had concerns, shockingly. I mean, I literally at the end, I presented the plan and the renderings. Oh, we love it. This is so great. Thank you, Lord. And I was like, okay, I love hearing that. But surely there's one person, there was like 200 people, like surely there's one person who has something negative to say.
They're always.
And I couldn't get anyone to say anything. So it wasn't necessary to change the plan. In fact, it sort of would have been bad if we had, because they were like, we said we liked it, remember? So, but nonetheless, yes, we will go through. And also too, once we get into the official process with the city, and you guys can come into, city, planning commission and city council or government meetings, all that stuff, there may still be things that you don't like, and then you can say that, and then we, someone may say, oh yeah, you're approved, but you have to change this or change that. Or our studies will go, oh yeah, that thing we drew during the charrette, we now know that if we do this, then it'll cause a negative impact there, we'll have to change that. So there'll be refinement process after. So, but yeah, yes, sir.
You mentioned that this had to be annexed into the city, and I guess I'd like to hear some opinions on benefits or negatives of being annexed into the city of Franklin. It would seem like if we're kind of on this island that's not annexed, then what are the long-range plans for the city, and are there benefits of being part of the city? And all I've heard is negatives.
Sure, yeah. Well, and so last night I showed, and I'll probably put it out here, I will just print it out, leave it out this week, but the growth management strategy for the county and the cities. And so like, all the cities worked together for several years to create what is our strategy for where we want to grow and densify, if you will, and where we want to stay rural for conservation. And so you've got the city limits, and then you got the urban growth boundaries. And so the urban growth boundaries are the areas where cities can expand and annex. And then all the cities in the county agreed not to annex property that's outside the urban growth boundaries, which was never done before. So the line actually means something now. And so as you go, you need to study that and look at it, because to y'all's point, and I think maybe probably some of y'all maybe were involved in that process, was aware of it. But if you are sitting here feeling like, oh yes, we're in the rural county and this is all farms around us, but you've got urban growth boundary completely surrounding you, you may want to be aware of that. Now, I would say to his point about, oh, maybe I need to sell my house. If you find that it's not what you were hoping for, as far as like, oh, that I'm in this boundary and I'm, surrounded, I would say my recommendation, we don't sell until something happens, because, well, a lot of what we hear is, oh, if you do something, you may decrease my property value. That isn't actually supposed to bear out for projects like this. Things like this that are interesting, unique, and different, and all of that stuff, and walkable and open space, and all the things that we've been talking about the past few days. Add value. Like there's something walkable and like I'll give you an example. There's a community in Maryland called Kentlands, and it's sort of a predecessor to a place like Westgate or Prairie Farm. So the mixed use town center and walkable and mix of houses and all these things, but big, And so people in their real estate ads will say, Kentland's View, or within walking distance of Kentland's. So they're actually advertising their property as, oh, we're so close to Kentland's, it's like you're practically there. And all the property values in Kentland's are higher than all the surrounding property and all of that stuff. So, obviously, it depends on what happens on Washington, some property, if somebody came in and put a 7-Eleven right there, or whatever, that'd be so great, right? But if there are, the other end of the spectrum is there are things that could happen that add value to your property. So my recommendation would be just wait and see, and then decide if you wanted to do that. But you should all know kind of where you fit in the grand scheme of the urban growth boundary. And so we'll try to get that printed out and bring it up here.
So we have to request annexation, right? So you guys are gonna be in the city, but we will not be.
No.
Unless we ask to go.
Exactly.
My understanding is we gain nothing because the city doesn't have to bring in a sewer for us yet. We could pay the tap fee if we wanted to across the street, whatnot. But this doesn't actually impact us in our standing, just being in the county, right?
No, you'll still be in the county. No, you only annex if you wanted to be. So you could like say, hey, can you put us in your annexation application or whatever?
But if we ask for that, that doesn't, on your guys' side, you don't have to do anything different on your plans. Because we're across the road, right?
No, it just, I mean, the only benefit, well, I don't know what the technical benefits are if you're in the county or the city or negative impact. We could look into that. But if somebody were to say, hey, can we get in on y'all's annexation application? There's just the fact that it's already happening. You don't have to do it yourself. So I don't know if we're making that available to people or not, but.
All right, well, a couple of things that would be negative. I seem to be the negative person here.
Oh, no. It's not.
Yes.
I'm one of them.
But y'all are all friendly about it, so that's good.
It is city taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have to pay city taxes, well, it's county taxes. Plus, if you have to have city garbage, you gotta pay for all of that, which is more than it is out here. I mean, what we do anyway. But, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
you
we're-
probably have to use the city. Garbage
bad.
and water, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
And
But not
so
me,
it's-
I do it.
And
Well,
sewage.
I think if you're in the city, you have to use some kind of, you have to have sewer too.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the city before I sold my property in the city. I've lived in there for 20 years. I moved down here to not be in the city for taxes. I got written up on a bonfire in my backyard because I didn't have a burn permit. So I came out here in the county where it's less restrictive. My understanding is, getting off topic here, but we could be annexed in the city, but they don't have to give us anything because we have septic. So you can stay on septic. There's no benefit for us joining the city right now. Because, so like trash is in my water bill. My water bill is higher. But they pay, so anyways, I don't see any benefits from going to the city.
So maybe when your backup septic goes down.
Well, that's the only benefit is if our septics go out,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't have an option.
there's people in Cedar Mine that they went on city and they still don't have city water.
Well, exactly. They don't have to.
Or they don't have to do it.
Yeah, if you don't get anything for it, that seems like that would be pointless.
Yeah, but they promise you they're going to.
Eventually, at some point.
You ever talk to people that go,
Yes, they know the folks that fire here, so. All right, well, I'm eager to go start sketching, so thank you all for your input. If you got any additional ideas, feel free.